Good morning. This is part of your team here at Knight Equipment. Rick, Chris, and behind the scenes Jason, going to talk to you today about loading a car onto a trailer and various types of back-end configurations and things to take into consideration. This first trailer has a 2-foot dovetail with side slide-in ramps. We're going to demonstrate here with an old Ford jalopy that has a 9.5-foot wheelbase and almost 8 inches of clearance at the center point beneath the two axles. So we're going to line up our slide-in ramps out of the side of the trailer. And we're going to give it a go here with this particular configuration. Now again, this is not an all straight deck. This has a 2-foot dovetail on the back. And what we want to take in consideration here is the clearance beneath the car when you're loading a car onto a trailer with a 2-foot dovetail. Now you see there's not a lot of overhang of the car in front of the front axle. Other vehicles will have a lot of overhang, but that's the first clearance point we're going to be concerned about. And then at the bottom of the car between the two axles, and then of course the back end coming up onto the trailer too, initially clearance from the ground, and then but here again on this car there's not a lot of overhang on either end. But let's take a look at this and we'll talk about the details. Typical car hauler, you'll be 82, 83 inches between the fenders. I think we're only going to have about 1.5 inches. Okay, so we're watching the front of the bumper on the underneath side to be sure it clears before the wheels. Yeah, the wheels are starting up on the ramp here. We've got plenty of clearance. We got about 3 inches of clearance. So the front tires are lifting the truck up, or the car up. Plenty of clearance. A lot of clearance in the front, still a lot of clearance in the back. Up onto the trailer. Now as we go over the point, we're looking at the bottom now in the clearance. We got about 4 inches right now, you see. Still plenty of clearance. We're going to be just fine. We're going to be just fine. Still a good 3 inches of clearance up onto the trailer. Up on the flat deck. So you can see in this particular case with 8 inches of clearance below the vehicle and a 9.5-foot wheelbase, everything cleared the trailer just fine with some room to spare. Now we're going to take a look at a different car hauler. This is a 10,000-pound rated trailer, so your deck height is up a little bit higher, about 2 inches higher than the previous trailer we looked at. This trailer is equipped with a 4-foot dovetail. That's going to give us a little bit nicer transition, and this unit has rear slide-in ramps.
And the stabilizers?
And this trailer is with the PJ brand. You can get the 2-foot dovetail or the 4-foot dovetail. On the H&H brand, we can get the 2-foot dovetail. This trailer has rear stabilizer jacks. May not be necessary to use them in this application today, as we're hooked up to a big heavy truck up in front. But if you had a lighter duty truck and pretty heavy payload that you're going to drive up onto the trailer, the rear stabilizer jacks might be very beneficial. This particular trailer happens to have drive-over fenders, but we're still about 83 inches between the fenders. Convenient when the ramps slide out the rear, you don't have to carry them quite so far. They are actually very heavy. They need to be heavy to be durable. So Chris is sticking them up there and going to line them up with the tires on the car. And again, this old Ford has about 8 inches of clearance at the middle of the car, between the bottom of the car and the ground, and about a 9.5-foot long wheelbase. So we're going to take a look and see what this one looks like. Again, deck height a couple inches higher on this trailer here. We want to watch the clearance at the front underneath side of the bumper, and then back at the middle of the car, and then be sure that the back end of the car is not going to rub the ground as we approach up onto the deck. So we're watching that bumper clearance first. Got about 2 inches of clearance right now, and the wheel's going to start lifting it, so we are okay. There we go. Plenty of clearance. He gets started up. We're on some loose pavement here, loose gravel. We've recently worked on our lot. A lot of clearance now. Okay, now we're at about 5 inches clearance. We're still looking good. Still looking good. Down to about 3 inches, 2 inches. Now we're going to start lifting up by virtue of the back tire, so we are going to clear this okay. And of course we had plenty clearance on the back end of this vehicle. Up onto the straight deck. In this particular case, again, drive over fenders, and these fenders are very low profile. And even on this car, we're going to be able to open the door out over the fenders. Now, I'm going to venture to say that if we only had a 2-foot dovetail, this car would not have loaded on this trailer because the deck height's higher. We only had about 1.5 inches or so of clearance at the worst point. And if we only had a 2-foot dovetail, I think that this car would have scraped the bottom at the end of the dovetail. So Chris is doing the driving duties for us. He has the remote control in his hand. So he's operating the tilting of the deck from inside the car. So again, we want to pay particular attention to this. You see we do have an angle. This is a 24-foot long trailer. Deck height on this I think is 26 or 27 inches. Happens to be a 10,000-pound GVW trailer. But again, we're going to look at the same things here. We're going to watch the underneath side of that front bumper, and then the clearance at the middle of the car, and then the back end, and make sure nothing's going to hit. So we got plenty of clearance on the front. So we start up onto it, still plenty of clearance in the back, plenty of clearance in the back, plenty of clearance in the back, up onto the tilt trailer. Okay, then he's going to pause momentarily and put the deck down and finish parking the car on a straight deck instead of driving up further with it tilted. In this particular case, with this long trailer, he could really be backed up to get the right amount of tongue weight. He's probably going to be backed up here, oh gosh, about 3 feet maybe on a 24-foot trailer. That's probably about right there. So we're trying to develop 12-13% of tongue weight. And then here you can see he's going to be able on this particular trailer to open the door out over the fender. Okay, gonna unload the car now. He's still got that wireless remote in his hand. Gonna tilt the deck down. And you can see we had a lot of clearance, both ends, on this particular trailer. Real nice way to load this old car. And again, some of the newer cars today, and particularly some of the sports cars, they're going to be a lot lower to the ground. So this one works fine, but this is always something you got to take into consideration.
And this particular trailer comes in a low profile version as well. The deck height is lower and the load angle is lower as well.
So we've shown 3 different loading examples here. The short dovetail, the longer dovetail, and the tilt bed trailer. And Chris, as far as the operator loading these up, comments?
Yeah, so we talk about this stuff all day long with customers, and we don't often get to put them in action. So putting them in action, you know, we started with that 2-foot beaver tail, and with how without the stabilizers, how the trailer lifted up in the front, even leveled the car out a little bit more, and it seemed to be a fairly secure, you know, way to load a car. That particular trailer is appropriate for this 46 Ford. The second one was very similar, a little bit more gradual of a slope of an angle to load the car. And then the third one was the most secure with this tilt. You had the ramp, no ramps, tilt. The back of the tilt bed is supported all the way to the ground, and it seemed like the most solid, best way to load this vehicle. So if I were purchasing, I would personally buy a tilt, and I would definitely recommend buying a power tilt trailer to load a vehicle.
And today we were able to test load And sometimes that's really the only way to determine what trailer is best to meet your needs. So sometimes you can draw this stuff up a little bit, you can calculate the best you can, but in many cases there's no substitute for actually test loading a trailer. So if you got something maybe a little bit difficult to load, we got a lot of experience here. Good people to come talk to in terms of your specific application. And sometimes we may have to send you home with the trailer to test load your machine if you can't get it here to try it.